Hi everyone, welcome to Kotlin Hyderabad's first session in December 2020. As we passed 90% of the year, we saw one of the worst ever year. But in this toughest situation also, I think everybody is doing good. Even in this worst situation, we have seen some of the good things as well. That's a great thing. So before start our talk, let me give a brief about session and the speaker. Uh, this session is all around the Java Enterprise Edition, which was also known as J2EE or Java EE. It used to be maintained by Oracle previously. It was called as J2EE. I think you are not putting J2EE as a in your resume, as it is changed to Java EE. Now it is being called as Java EE is once when it was maintained by Oracle, it was under the process of JCP. But Oracle around the 2017 time, it gave it to Eclipse Foundation to run the next updates. So when it came to Eclipse Foundation, the Java EE is named as Jakarta EE. Now today's talk is all about a specification in the Jakarta EE umbrella. Our speaker today is Ivar Grimstad. Ivar is a Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. He is also a Java champion and jug leader in Sweden. He's the PMC leader for Eclipse Enterprise Edition for Java. He involved in the projects like Eclipse Microprofile, Apache NetBeans, and he's a frequent speaker at many international developer conferences. Without much late, let me hand over to Evar for the talk. Evar, you can start now.
Thank you very much. Welcome to this talk. My name is Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE Developer Advocate at Eclipse Foundation. And this talk will be about Jakarta MVC. And I'll even talk about the newer version that is not out there yet, but will be coming in a couple of days. So let me just repeat a couple of words about myself. This is the Twitter handle. You can reach me there or on my LinkedIn, as well as my GitHub here. I'm a member of the Java Community Executive Committee. Currently, I represent the Eclipse Foundation there. I used to be a individual member, but now since I joined the Eclipse Foundation, I'm their representative in the Java Community process. So I'm keeping kind of the link back there as well. My day work is within Jakarta EE and the specifications there. And this is what, as was told in the introduction, the new Java EE has moved to Eclipse Foundation and is now branded as Jakarta EE. And I'll talk about one of the specifications here today, and that is the MVC specification. And the MVC specification has kind of always been thought of as the community specification. It was. I'll come back to it a little bit about the history, and you can get the understanding of why this is kind of so much embraced by the community. We have the logotype or the illustration here with the barista Duke has been created by a community member for us. We got some money donated to us to create this this barista Duke, and we also have had tremendous support from the community throughout the development of the specification. And we also have a lot of Java user groups that have adopted the specification and are listed on our specification page at jakarta.ee. The MVC specification is all about the controller to the community, or the @controller, since we are adding an annotation called @control, and I'll show a code demo afterwards. And this will be pretty code heavy talk. I just have a couple of slides here in the beginning, and then we'll dive into the code, and you'll see the @control annotation there. We have been awarded in the Java community process. We got the Outstanding Spec Lead Award, as well as the Outstanding Adopted JSR Award at the Java community process. So even the community and the JCP appreciates what we're doing with the specification. So this is about the history of MVC. It started back in 2014, that's 6 years ago. That's when the first proposal came around. And it was approved by the JCP Executive Committee at the time, and the expert group formed there. I joined around there in 2014 when the expert group formed. And then we pretty fast produced a early draft release and a second early draft release within a year from when we were started. And then we were kind of getting there, and then we had this hiatus happening within Java EE where not much was going on with work on the specification, so we didn't know where it was going. And in Java 1 in October 2016, Oracle decided to drop MVC from Java EE 8. And that's where we became the community specification. Because the community didn't want to drop this. We wanted to continue the work and not just stop doing it. So we said to Oracle, hey, give us the code and we'll finish the specification. And they did it. They donated the code to open source to a couple of individuals, and we continued doing the specification work. And we had this transfer ballot in the JCP that we were officially the specification leads in 2017. And it continued in 2017. It took some time to get all the legal works done and get the transfer complete, but we had all the signatures in place in April. In May, I took on Christian Kalteput as a co-spec lead. And we immediately changed the license to Apache 2. And we did some work with the infrastructure setup, our GitHub organization and everything there, and started getting able to work on this really from June 2017. And then the announcement of Jakarta EE came along, and we announced an intention that we would move to Eclipse Foundation once we had a final specification. After that, we filed for a public review of our specification. We had a ballot, got it approved, and we proposed the Eclipse Ozark project to the Eclipse Foundation. And this is a kind of a funny deal, because when Oracle was leading this specification, the reference implementation there was called Ozark, and when we moved to Eclipse, we had to change the name from Ozark to Kraso, because Ozark is a trademark, has a trademark issues with it. And so we were thinking, what are we going to call this specification? And we ended up with just reversing the letters from Ozark to Kraso, and that's when Eclipse Kraso was created. And then we had the final draft and the final release in February this year. And that kind of was our final step within the JCP, because immediately after this, we took the specification and created it in under Jakarta EE as Jakarta MVC. And that was in May this year. And in October, we released MVC 1.1. It is exactly the same functionality as MVC 1.0 was, only it's with the Jakarta Maven coordinates and has gone through the Jakarta EE Specification Process. So it is kind of all the IP is cleared, and it's a proper Jakarta EE specification. And the next thing that happened was that we did the namespace change from Java X to Jakarta, which is done for Jakarta E9, and Jakarta E9 was released a couple of weeks ago, and we have a big party coming up on Tuesday, the Jakarta 1 live stream. And we wanted to have Jakarta MVC ready for that. Now, we're not making it completely, because the release review ballot just started and will finish on December 17. But it means that in December this year, we will release a final version of Jakarta MVC 2.0, and that is the one I'm going to show in this talk. So what is MVC then? You're probably familiar with the model view controller pattern. And a usual way of visualizing this is that you have a controller, a model, and a view like this. And you get a request from typically a web browser to the controller. It selects which view to render, and it maybe does some updates to the model, and the view accesses the model to render whatever information is requested. And there are different kinds of MVC or model view controller. You have this is the I'm just forgetting the this is the component-based MVC. I think that's a correct term. Yeah, it's component-based MVC, and that is typically JSF and that kind of frameworks where the controller is provided to you by the framework. So in JSF, you just define the faces servlet, and that's the controller of your application, and you just create the model and the view. Whereas in Jakarta MVC, the controller is part of the specification. So you as a developer have full control over the controller in your application. So it's kind of more fine grades, more flexible, and you have full control over what's happening. So let's go to the IDE and look at some code. First of all, I'm going to show you the POM file for this demo project. It's available on GitHub, and I'll give you the link after this talk. So I'm using here Jakarta EE9. That's the latest version of Jakarta, and that means everything is in the Jakarta namespace. In addition to that, I'm using Jakarta MVC 2.0, which technically isn't released yet, so it's available in the staging repository. So I have a Maven profile to get the dependencies from the staging repository. After Christmas or after in December, it will be released to Maven Central. And then since it's not a part of the Jakarta EE platform, any of the profiles yet, so I need to define the implementation for it as well. And Kraso is the implementation. And the way you set up Kraso is that you have a core module that everybody has to have. And then you have a more specific to an implementation that depends on which Jakarta REST or JAX-RS implementation your runtime is having. And this demo is running on Glassfish. So, and Jersey is the Jakarta REST implementation of Glassfish. So here is Kraso Jersey. If I were to run it on Wildfly, for example, I will use REST-easy here. And then I can run it on Wildfly, as well as OpenLiberty. We also have support for CXF, but that's not working 100% yet. So let's look at the application. MVC is built on top of Jakarta REST. So you can see I have the Jakarta REST application here. So I've created an application, and it has a application path UI. And I have a index file here that just redirects me to this, to a hello, that gives me a link to this hello application. I'll just show you how it looks. This is my index page here. You can see it's the MVC DIG, it's go to demo. And this isn't implemented yet. So here I'll get a 404, which is expected. So let's go ahead and implement this. The first thing I'm going to need is a controller. So let's create a controller called hello. And this controller is since it's on top of JAX-RS or Jakarta REST, I'm using this one to say it's hello. And since it's an MVC controller, I need the controller annotation. And here's where the add controller comes in. So you can see I'm using the Jakarta version of the MVC controller. Then I'm going to need to respond to a HTTP GET request. And what I'm going to do here is just have a public method, hello. I won't take any parameters. I won't do anything in this method. And I'll have it void. And then I'll annotate it with the @view annotation, which is also from Jakarta MVC. And here I can specify which view I want to render. And I'll call this one hello JSP. Now, the MVC specification requires that you support JSP, but you are allowed to support any templating language, and the Eclipse Crasso supports I think it's 12 different, such as Thymeleaf. You can even use ASCII-doc if you want. But in this case, I'll just use JSP. That's what I'm more familiar with. And I'll just mention the name of the page here, and then I have to create this page, and I do that under the webinf view folder. I can configure it otherwise, but this is the default location to put it. I'll just create a hello JSP, and I'll call this Jakarta MVC demo. And here I'll just write a heading called hello world, like this. So now I have the controller. It answers a GET request, and it renders this view. So let's just go and run this to verify that everything is working. So I have Glassfish running here. I'll just redeploy my application. And you can see I'm using a release candidate of Glassfish. And I'll just see, there are some comments here. Yes, that's good. So it is deployed here. I can go here, click the application, and you can see it goes to the UI hello, and it says hello world, which is what I just created here. So let's go and do something more interesting. We wanted to say hello to Duke. And to do that, I need to have a model that I can update. So let's inject a property here. Let's call this one, inject the models, which is from Jakarta MVC, as the model, and say that it's basically a hash map. And I'll put a property called name, and I'll call it Duke, like this. And then in the view page, I'll go ahead and rather than saying hello world, I'll say hello and use the let me see and get it right here, $name, like this. I'll redeploy the application, and while it does that, there we go. I'll go back here. I'll go to the beginning of the demo. Go here. Oh, it didn't work. It's not there yet, and it says hello Duke. So now you can see I'm accessing the model, which I populate in the controller. So so good so far. Let's go a little bit more advanced and say that I want to provide this name. I don't want to hard code it. So let's create a form where I can fill in my name and get it written there. So first I'll just create the form. I'll call it form JSP. There we go. And I'll call this Jakarta MVC demo. And I think I have a template for me here. Let's just create a form where I have an input type text, a submit button, and a text called name. And then in my application, you can see in the form I'm doing a post. So what I have to do here is to have a post method. So I'll annotate it with at post, and I'll just have it, I'll return a response in this case. You can return basically more or less anything. A string if it's the name of the view, or a void like I'm doing up here. Then you need to have the @view annotation, or I can return a raw response and have more fine control if I want. So let's have a form param. This is from Jakarta REST, as you see, and the name of the param was name. And we'll call it string, and it's a name there as well, it's convenient. And then I'll return a response. Okay, and I'll return the just the hello JSP and build the response. And here I'll take the model and put name and the name I'm getting from the form, like this, and I'll remove it from this one. And for the GET request, I will need to return the form. So what I'm doing now, if I get an HTTP GET, I'll get the form JSP. Then when I submit the form from this page, I'm getting to this post method here, where I add the name from the form to the model, and I render the hello JSP. So let's see if this works. I see there is a question in the chat, and if the controller is default request scopes, and yes, it's using the same as JAX-RS. So it depends a little bit on the implementation. Some of them are most of them are request scopes. So all the scope of the injections there are request scoped. I will talk a little bit about scopes later and show a particular scope we have made here in this application as well. So here I have the form. I type in the name and I submit it, and it says hello Duke. And to just verify that I'm not using the hard-coded, let's call it something else, Duke number 2. And you can see it actually takes the text I'm getting in there. Okay, so another thing when you're creating web applications is security. So let's add some security to this one. And what I want to do is to add what you call cross-site request forgery, or support for against that. And that means that somebody can simulate to be your page and kind of steal information from you. So what I want to do is to protect this method and say that this one is going to be CSRF protected. That's all I have to do, is add this annotation to the method. I also have to do a small configuration in the JAX-RS or MVC application configuration here. So what I'm adding here is let me see if I have a config here. So what I'm adding here is I'm setting the CSRF protection attribute to explicit. I have different options here. I can set it to off, that it won't do any checks, or that it's implicit. So implicit means that all requests are evaluated for cross-site request forgery. But in this case, I want it explicit, and that is because I want the fine-grained control to be able to set the annotation on the method that I want to have verified. It doesn't make sense to do it on a GET request where I'm just showing the form, but it makes sense on the POST request. So what happens now if I run this one? Let's go back here, go to the MVC Duke application, go to the demo, type Duke, and submit it. And I'm getting a 403. So here you can see I'm getting a CSRF failed due to missing token. And that is one of the mechanisms of CSRF, is that this annotation checks that you have a proper token sent from the form. So what I have to do is to go into the form and add a hidden field here. And this hidden field is getting a name from the MVC context, and it's taking a token here. So I'm just adding a server-side rendered field here. So when this page is served from the server, this token is added to it, so nobody else can submit this form unless you have this particular page, and it's served by me, so I know it's correct. Let's go and redeploy this one now, and just see that we are getting the page without any problems. So there it's up and running. You go to the demo, type in Duke, and submit it, and it says hello Duke. So now it's secured with a CSRF token. So what else can we do? We've added a little bit of security. Let's add some validation, because we want to check that it's actually a name we're putting into the form and not something else. So let's do that. And to do this, I'll create a class that can be my form. So I'm not using a form parameter anymore, so I can have more options of validation. And I've actually cheated a little bit and created this hello form class. And I'll go through and explain it here. So you can see I'm using a couple of MVC specific annotations here. And it's a simple class. It's just a hello form. It has a name with a getter and setter. And I'm annotating it with MVC binding that makes the binding of this field in so I can use it in the controller. I'm saying it's not supposed to be blank, so this is bean validation, not blank. And also saying I want only letters. I don't want any numbers or special characters in the name. And then I'm using the Jakarta REST form param annotation for the name attribute. So I'm saying not blank, only letters, and I'm binding it to my controller. Let's go here and use this one in the form. So rather than the hello form that I had here, what I'm going to use is now a bean param, which is also from Jakarta REST. And the bean param is the hello form. And that's what I'm putting in there. And then I'll use the hello form get name method to get the name out there. What I'm also going to do is to activate the bean validation. So I'm saying here that it has to be valid. And this is bean validation. So what this one will do is to validate all the bean validations I've put here. So I'm saying it's an @valid bean param, and I'm using the name attribute. Now, there is another thing I need to do, and that is if I want to validate and give some error messages if you're doing anything right, anything wrong, I'll need to inject a property here. I'll call this one, and what I'm injecting is the binding result from the MVC binding attribute. I'm getting when it does the binding from a string to a Java string or a boolean to a boolean or all of this stuff, I'm getting a result from this binding, and this binding results is something that I can use to validate if the input was okay. So I'll do that here, and I'm checking here if the binding result is failed. Then I'll add an error message to the model and just get all the messages. I'm not doing anything particular here, and I'm just sending a bad request back to the form. Otherwise, I'll put the name there and I'll go to the hello JSP. Let's redeploy this one. Go back to our application. There you go. So it's starting up. So there you go. So if I now type Duke as you would suspect, it goes as usual. But in the case I type something that don't type a name here, it won't do anything. So what I can do is to take the binding, the messages here, the errors, and display them in the form. So I'll do that here, and just add a message here in red, and I'm just getting the errors out. So if I go back to my first page, I go to the demo, and I don't type anything, it will say must not be blank. And if I do like I did last time and print Duke 2, it will say only letters. And these are the messages that I'm getting from here. Now I could do these localized and do this so you get it in some better format or anything, but this is the kind of the simplest way, and I'll also verify that it actually works when you type it correctly. Okay, so far. So what we've done so far is to create a controller. We are doing some validation, and what we also should do is to maybe add some locale specific, because so far we're only doing this in English. So what we want to do is to detect the language in the browser and display the correct name. So what I'll do here, rather than just saying this, I'll add a new class, a greeting class. So I'll call this one greeting, and I'll use this template here. And this greeting class, it's recast scoped. It's a CDI bean with a name, and it has a message. So that's the only thing it has, so it's super simple. And let's go here, and rather than using the model, because one way of using the model in MVC is to use this provided for your models class, but I can also use CDI directly. Let's just inject the greeting here. So I have the greeting. So rather than the model, I'll just use the greeting set message, and I say hello, and then I'll use the hello form, get name. And I don't need a model. So I haven't changed anything functionally. I'm just changing to use this greeting class. For the error messages, I'm still using the model. What I also need to do in the hello JSP here is that rather than saying hello name like this, I'm going to use the greeting. So it's a greeting message. So I'm not saying hello anymore, I'm picking it from the greeting message. Let's redeploy this and go see that it works before we add some localization. So we go to the demo, we print Duke, and we submit it, and it says hello Duke. Now, if I wanted to have some locale specific stuff here, I can add, I just added a resource bundle. So I have here, it's a greeting that is saying hello as default. It's saying hello in German. It's saying hey in Swedish, and I hope this is correct for Hindi, but namaskar. If it's not correct, then bear with me. I'm doing my best. But let's see if we can say it in Hindi here. And what I have to do then is to go back here and use this greetings bundle. And what I have to help me with this is a class called MVC context. So I'll inject it here, MVC context. like this. And I'll just cheat a little here. Use the resource bundle. So I'll go through what I'm doing here. So I'm getting the greetings from the greetings resource bundle, and I'm using the context locale, which I'm getting from the MVC context. So I'm getting the locale there, and I'm using this to get the greetings properties, which are these. Then I'll set these that message. There we go. So rather than doing the set direct click and hard code the hello, I'm getting the greeting from the greetings bundle, and then I'm using the hello form name. So I'll get rid of this one, and now I'm using a locale specific version. So I'll redeploy this one, and let's hope it works. So I'm going back here. Let's refresh it. Okay, what happened? I think it should be. Oh, it's always something, isn't it? Let's try it again. There we go. And it says here it should be okay. Let's go and refresh, and there we go. And then I'll go to the demo, say Duke here, just verify that it works. It's saying hello Duke. So now I'll go back to the start here, and I'll go and say I'm accepting languages HI. So I'll go in here. I'm setting a accept language property by manipulating my browser, and I'm saying Duke, and it said Namaskar Duke, and I can do this in any language I have in the resource bundle. That's pretty cool. I hope I did it right though. So what's left? Yeah, there's one more thing. What happens if I press refresh here? So let's do that. Go in and refresh this page, and it will say it's a form resubmission. And you don't want to have this when you're creating a web application, because then if people accidentally do continue here, then if this is a shopping cart or a checkout or something, you may pay twice for whatever you're shopping for. So you don't want to have this in your application. Let's see how we can get rid of it. A usual, the way I'm showing here is if you have this reservation page in the browser that you post something to the reservation controller, what it does is to update the model and return OK to a confirmation page in the browser. And if you hit refresh, it will resubmit the form. What you want to do is to have the reservation page in the browser, do a post to the reservation controller, have the controller update the model, do a redirect to the browser that does a get to a confirmation controller that gets the stuff from the model and then returns an OK to a confirmation. And you will only have one, because if you hit refresh again on the confirmation controller, it's not the form you're resubmitting. So let's see if we can implement this in the Hello World application. And in order to do this, I will have to create a new controller. So let's create a controller called greeting controller. What this one is going to do is, at first it will use the @path annotation and call it greet. Let's also add the @controller annotation. Now I could add a controller annotation on a method as well, because it's not the class that is that is the controller. It's actually the method that is a controller. So you can have several controllers in the same class. but I'll just do it on class level here for convenience. I'll have the @view annotation and return the hello JSP. And this can be a public void greet. And I'm not doing anything here. But what I want to do is to make sure that the controller has the model available for me. So what I will do is to inject the greeting that I created. I'm not using it for anything. I'm just injecting it here to make sure it's available. And what I also have to do is to go in here, and rather than render the hello JSP directly, what I want to do is a redirect to the greet. So the greeting controller has the greet path, and here I do a redirect to greet. And another thing that I also need to remember, and here's where the scopes come in, is that the greeting class that I created is request scoped. And in order for this one to keep its values through a redirect, I need to change this scope to something we've called redirect scoped. And redirect scoped is a custom scope that we've defined in MVC. And this will make sure that this class keeps its values over one redirect. I also need to configure my application, and here is a implementation specific configuration. And what I have to do is to make sure I tell it how to do this redirect scope. And this property is a Crasso specific property. And for Crasso, in this case, I'm using the redirect scope cookie. I can also use it as a param name if I want to. And this will be different from implementation to implementation because this is not specified exactly how it's going to be done by the specification, but the redirect scope annotation must be supported. So then I should be pretty much good to go here. So let's go and redeploy this. And then go back to the application and do a new one. Let's write Duke. Let's submit this. And you see it's the same result, but if I hit refresh now, you'll see that it doesn't give me a formal resubmission, and it's still in the greet controller. Now, what I could do just to make it super clear what's happening here is that in the greeting controller, let's just take the inject a models, because this is typically where you would have some confirmation that your payment was successful or something like that. So let's just inject the model, and let's model put, let's call it message, and say thank you. And in the form, the hello page, let's just add it underneath here and say like this message. Let's see how this works. And what I also want to do is something that we have in addition to what I'm showed so far, is that we have some events being fired by the system. So I'll add a observer class here. And this is a simple CDI observer. It's using the CDI observes. And I have different events I can observe here. And I've added two of them here. And that is a before controller event, as well as a controller redirect event. So here I'll get a log. I'm using the warning level just to make it visible. And I'm logging here and seeing before a controller is accessed and before a redirect is done. So let's redeploy this one. Go and clear the log. There you go. Let's clear it. Let's go back to the application and try it out the last time. Let's say Duke, submit the form, and you can see it now say thank you. That's a message I added here. And if I refresh this one, you will see that the message from the greeting is not there anymore, because it's only survived through a redirect, but the thank you message will be there. And if we look at the log, you can see here that I'm having the before the hello controller, then I'm having a redirect, and then before the greet twice when I did the refresh. So you can see these are the redirect happening, and this is the controller events. So that was the demo I had prepared. Let's go and sum this up. So the simplest controller you can create in Jakarta MVC is the at controller annotation and an at view annotation on top of a simple Jakarta REST resource. The other things are standard Jakarta REST and nothing weird to it. But the at controller annotation adds behavior to the Jakarta REST. One thing it adds is that you can see you can have a void method. That is not allowed for a research method in Jakarta REST. But since it's an at controller method, you're allowed to do it as long as you have the at view annotation. So this is the simplest controller you can make in Jakarta MVC. The information about Jakarta MVC is found on the Jakarta EE webpage. And if you remember anything from this talk today, it's jakarta.ee, and there you can find everything. If you go to /specifications, that's where you find all the specifications, and MVC is under MVC. The sources for MVC are available on GitHub under the Eclipse EE4J organization. We have one repository for the API, MVC API. We have one for the test suite and one for the compatible implementation called Eclipse Grasso. And the demo I've showed here today is available on my GitHub, and it's called MVC Duke. So please feel free to try it out and see if we can get it to work. Currently, you will need to do it on a Jakarta EE9 compatible implementation. So as of today, you're limited to Glassfish 6 or Wildfly 22 alpha preview, but there will soon be more. So then you can use your favorite runtime. I want to remind you on Tuesday that we do have the Jakarta 1 conference. It's a full day conference packed with content. We're celebrating the Jakarta EE9 release. There will be demos, there will be code, there will be lots of amazing speakers. So go into the jakarta1.org and register yourself for that conference. You don't want to miss this one. And that was what I had for today. So I hope you enjoyed the session, and let's see if we have any questions for me here.
Ever, there is one question.
Yes.
So, what is the difference between request parameter and form parameter?
So the difference between a request parameter and a form parameter. Yes, I'll show you that. I'll actually go and show you. So a form parameter, like I'm using here, in my view here, I have a form, and I have this input type. So this the input type here, name, will be a form parameter called name. If I have a request parameter, what I can do then is to rather than, I'll go back to the form and show here. So rather than having the form, the value here will be name, then a request parameter would be to put it up here like let me type it correctly. Name equals Dirk. So if I add this to the request and use it, that would be a request parameter. But a form parameter would pick it from the HTML form, like you specified here. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. We'll give just a minute so that if anyone can ask a question, they can ask now. And in the comments, they can do comment.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Guys, please feel free to give to comment if you have any question.
And while people are figuring that out, of course, a request parameter can be used in MVC as well. So it's very easy to add it if I wanted to change from a form parameter to a request parameter.
I think we are good.
Yeah.
We don't have any questions right now. Yeah.
No. So, and if there are any questions later, you can find me on Twitter and GitHub. So it's just to ping me and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eva, for the good session. You've given a lot of things about Jakarta. Generally nowadays we go with the Spring and other frameworks, but we don't know what is happening under the hood in the core technology. This is a very good informative session. So thank you very much, guys, for joining us today for the session. In the future, if you want to give any talk with us, please feel free to contact us at any point of time. All the details are in the below description, and in our meetup page also, all the details are there. With this, we're signing off for today. Bye bye, guys.
Okay, thank you.